Hello friends, let's make a Tyrannosaurus Rex puppet out of paper. We'll need a number of sheets of construction paper or cardstock. I use cardstock. Astro Brights are easy to find. I bought this assortment online from Amazon, I think. It has a great range of colors here. I've tried our dinosaur out in several different color schemes. Kind of got a Yoshi thing going on here. So the color of your dinosaur, you'll need 2 full sheets for that. You'll need some white for the teeth. I'm actually going to use some even heavier paper for the teeth, some watercolor paper, nice and rigid in texture. We'll need pink for the lining of the mouth, red for a tongue, and on the eyes, I'm going to swap what I've done here. I'm going to make the pupil black and then yellow around it. So I've got a full sheet of yellow, and then you only need a scrap for your pupil. So I've got this leftover bit of black paper right here. Now the tools we'll need a ruler, because this time I am going to use measurements, something to make some marks. We'll need a pair of scissors, clear tape, glue stick, and I'm going to use a dime to trace around for my pupil. We can add to our puppet with perhaps a sock that matches the color of the puppet. This will sort of complete the look. Not necessary. And even a sleeve pulled up can do the same job there. And if we want little arms for a T-Rex, a Chanel stick here or some thin wire will allow us to tie some little dinosaur arms, some little T-Rex arms to our puppet there. All right, let's get started. Intergalactic, planetary, intergalactic. We'll start by creating the mouth. Let's fold this piece in half in this direction. Unfold it, and we'll make a couple of measurements. On one side of this fold in the center, we want to measure 1/2 inch. And on the other side, a full inch. We'll do the same here. And we'll make folds along these. These new folds I'm going to score. I want to really reinforce them. Now we want to measure 1.5 inches from this corner. Now we're going to measure 2.25 inches in from each of these 2 marks. We'll cut along these lines. On the side that we've given an inch here, this is our jaw. And this will be the top of the mouth, the roof of the mouth. Now we'll fold these in just like this. Bring trace onto the other side. Follow that same line, but make it ever so slightly bigger. Just a hair bigger. Now we're going to need to cut along here, here, now we'll need to make these cuts up to each fold. Fold these in. This is the idea here. We've created a jaw that is slightly inset. Now we'll need to tape these down, these flaps down, to hold our fingers in place. Okay, that's what we've got here. Let's go ahead and make the tongue so we can glue it in here and let that glue dry. And then we'll set this piece aside for a moment. To make the tongue, you'll only need 1/4 of a sheet of paper. We'll fold this piece in half this way. We'll fold it in half again. I'm going to score this one. Here we're going to make a small cut. Right here. And we'll fold these back. We'll make about a 1/2 inch cut right here. And we'll need to do the same just on this side. We'll fold these up and down, splay them. I'm going to tape these elements down here. And finally, I'm going to try to curve the paper on each side here, reinforce that little valley in the center of the tongue. I'm also going to take a moment and just round these corners off here. Top jaw. And we'll glue it in place like this. I like to put glue on both surfaces. Great, okay. We'll set this aside for now. Let that glue dry. Now we're going to make the jaw. We'll start by folding in half lengthwise. Now we need to make a few measurements. We'll measure 7.5 inches from this corner. We've measured 2.5 here and 1.5. Come down here, make a mark about 4 inches in. Now we need to freehand draw. Now it's time to cut this out. First thing we'll do is cut this piece off right here. This will be used to make our little arms, our little T-Rex arms later on, so we'll put that aside. Let's make a fold. Flare it out slightly. Narrower here, wider here. We'll do the same on the other side. We're going to make some small cuts along these folds, 1.5 inches in. Make these cuts. And we can fold this up. Now what we want to do is make a cut here and here, here and here. Fold that tab up. Now let's tape these in place. I'm making sure to round that corner nicely. Cut that line right along there. We'll want to go ahead and make the teeth and set them in our jaw before we move on to the next step, so those can dry. As I said, I'm using some heavier paper here, but your regular cardstock will work fine. This piece is 2 inches wide, 9 inches long. I already have it pre-cut. We'll fold it in half. We'll round it on this corner where you fold it a little bit. And you see how it rests in here. Trace the gum line. I'm going to draw some teeth on here, making sure that I split right here, right along that fold, so we create 2 separate teeth there. These front teeth will be straight up and down, and then as we sort of round the corner, I want to make them curve in a little bit. Makes them look a little more lethal. To start with, I'm going to cut along right here. Now just cut out all the teeth, cutting through both sides at the same time. Should nest right in there. So we're going to add some glue along here and along in there. We'll make sure it's centered correctly. You can line up the two creases. And we should go ahead and get the mouth glued into the jaw as well, so that can be drying. This is the curvature we want here. Make a relief cut here and here. Fold this back. I'm just trying to match this curve. We're going to glue this in by gluing this surface to this one. And I'm going to be very generous with the glue. Now we can set the jaw aside. Now it's time to get started on the eyes. Starting with a full sheet of paper, we fold it in half lengthwise. Now we only need 7 inches of this. We'll cut off the excess. Here's our fold. Now we want to make some more measurements. At the 3-inch mark and the 4-inch mark. Now these are just going to be for folds. Turning it this way, we're coming 1.5 inches from this edge. Again, this will be a fold. Along here, we want to measure to 1 1/4. Ding, ding. Likewise down here. Ding, ding. We'll be folding along here. Folding along here. And we're going to have a lot of excess, so we can go ahead and cut off here, just using the width of the ruler here. And we'll actually be cutting up to that point here. And these two pieces we discard. Actually, sorry, we're going to be cutting all the way back to here. There we go. All the way back to there. Open it up. Okay, now we need to make some folds. We're going to fold along each of these dotted lines here. I'm folding in this direction so that I'm hiding all of my mark making. I need to make a couple more folds. We're going to fold from this corner to this corner. Straight line. We'll fold all the way across here, all the way across here, and from this corner all the way down to that one in a straight line. That's better. Okay, let's make those folds. Now finally, we're ready to assemble this. We'll be taping these down, folding this in line here, and then bringing this in here. And that's our finished shape. I'm going to use a little glue here. And also a piece of tape. Do the same here. Okay, here. These are going to fold in just like this. Line it up right with the edge. I'm also going to add a piece of tape. You'll see that this angle is wider than this one, and so this one will be the top. Now let's make the pupils. We won't need much paper at all. I'm using this scrap here, folding it over. And I'll trace this dime. Now we'll cut both layers at the same time. We're going to be gluing these in place here. We actually can make our T-Rex look a little more furrowed of brow if we slice off the top of the pupil there. He's looking kind of through his clenched up brow at his prey there. This here makes it look like he's looking down. We could cut off the bottom edge. I'm picking the part that I think looks least circular. Go ahead and sacrifice that. So here we go. We can come in about that far. And here's what it looks like the other way. We'll add a bit of glue. Remember, the wider angle is the top. There we go, I like that. Same thing on the other side. Now, we put this aside for a few minutes. It's time to make the top of the head. This is the most challenging piece. We can see that there are a lot of cuts and angles that need to be made. So we'll start by making some measurements and break this thing down. First, we will fold in half lengthwise. I'm not going to score this because this will end up becoming flattened out. Let's make our measurements here. Starting from the left edge, we need to make a mark at 2.5 inches. And 5 inches. Down this edge, we'll make a mark at 2.5 inches from the top. top left edge going down, we'll make a mark at 1.5 inches. Along the bottom edge, let's make a mark at 5 inches, 6.5 from this edge. At 2.5 inches, let us drop down 1.25 inches. At 5 inches, let's drop down 1.5 inches. Now we're going to draw an arch from here to here. A subtly curved line to get you from point A to point B there. Likewise, from here to here, we make a simple curved line as smoothly as possible from one point to the other. We'll go down this direction, and we're going to curve from here right to this point. Curve, triangle, and we'll finish it with a curve from here to here. Now let's make those cuts. Okay, we'll open this up. Flatten out that fold. I'm going to assemble it in this direction so we don't see all of my marks. But this is our nose. And this part here will be the eyes. And we'll be taping these things together here. So let's glue and tape the eyes in place. So line up essentially with this 5-inch mark. And then we'll be folding up back along this direction here. We'll want to use glue and tape to hold it in place well. We're going to be creating this angle right here. Do the same on the other side. Now, something I like to do is to add an extra piece of tape that will hold these two angles here in place, because these two lines are very important. So I'm actually going to tape it up very close to this edge right here, overlapping these two pieces. That will help that line up nicely all the way to the back edge. And we can see here I'm going to come almost down. Coming all the way there would be a 90-degree angle. I'm going to come close to it though. I'm going to do the same over here. Another piece of tape, joining these two edges right here. There we go, looking good, looking good. Looks kind of like a crocodile right now, just above the surface of the water. We're doing the same thing here where we're not quite doing a 90-degree angle. We want it to flare out ever so slightly. This is going to be our nostril right here. So we can actually kind of slide these two up to meet this edge a little better, and that creates a protruding nostril there. He's got a nostril hair sticking out over here. So everything has just been tentatively taped, and we can kind of look at our angles here and see how we like things. Look at it in relation to the bottom jaw. I want to make sure the angles look good with each other. So for example, I feel that I've brought this in too much right here. I'll find just the right angle. That looks a little better here. I'm going to shift this one a bit. There, it took a little bit of the tension off. Just felt better to me. Okay, so these don't quite line up now as well. I'm going to just trim the edge off here. Back like that. And I'm going to finish with a piece that will really hold everything together now that I'm happy with my angle. Now we tape a piece that begins right under the nostril, runs down, and folds under here. Do the same over here. Now let's bring these around right here. Well, that took a lot of fussing, but we finally have our head assembled. Now it's time to make our teeth. Just like last time, I have a piece of paper that is of white watercolor paper, but again, cardstock will work fine. 2 inches by 9 inches. We'll fold it in half. Put a little roll in it. Now I'm going to line it up with our center fold here and trace this outline. Now we draw our teeth on here. These first few more straight up and down, and then as we start to round the corner, I like them to kind of start angling back a little bit. And I do make teeth going up this portion right here till we're at the edge. Let's cut this out. Now we'll be gluing the teeth in place, just like this. And to allow a little bit of flex, I'm going to cut a couple of relief cuts right along here and here. And that will allow us to glue these faces down. I might even do another set. Now the teeth will come a little bit away from the lip. I think that looks nice. So let's glue things in place. I'm going to add some tape to really try to hold this in place. Now, let's join these two, see what happens. Okay, that looks pretty good. I think that's going to line up nicely. So if we look at this piece and this piece, they need to nest into each other. And try to trace as best you can the angle you see. And I'm going to try to encourage it to flatten off here a little bit and come back in. I also want to make an adjustment to these. When I close the mouth, they move in too far. They overlap too far. So I'm actually going to cut a curve in them. And I think that's going to look a little bit more naturally like that ligament or whatever it is. Looking here, we want to make some relief cuts here and here. Now we'll also need to cut the two layers apart on this side. We flare these pieces out. I'm going to fold these along our penciled line, trying to match the curve of the jaw. We do the same here on this side. We have to make sure this can move freely past here. We may end up cutting these back if it's any bit of a problem. So that means in order for this to pass by here, we're not going to be gluing the mouth any farther back than these points here. So I will actually try to get them to splay a little bit and glue all the way up to those points. Now from here, we're going to be gluing this in here, and this is fussy. We want to make sure that our angle is right. This is essentially what I want right here. And so you can make note and see as I slide it upward here that we're sort of lining up with the back of the mouth lines up with that point right there. Okay, here we go. Let's go glue crazy. I'm gonna get a new glue stick. Let's slather this with glue. I've given this a few minutes to set, and I'm still not happy with how well it's seated in here. So I'm going to do two things to help reinforce it. I'm going to cut a little bit of this off so that I can then add a couple of pieces of tape right here, so it won't have to pass through there anymore. So I'm just trimming that point off there so it doesn't protrude quite as far. I'll do the same on both sides. Okay, now I have more room to work with in here. We can see that this only needs to pass through right here. So I'm going to add a piece of tape all the way across here to here. Same on the other side. I've cut this a bit, so there's room for some tape right along here. Okay, I think we are done with the head. Now, we want to complete the look. I've got a sock here. It's not a great match, but it will do. I cut a hole in the end of it there so I can pass my hand through. And we can add some little T-Rex arms to the sock. So let's go all the way back to that piece of green that we cut off at the very start. Cut it in half. Now here comes the tricky part. We want to reverse this fold partway down. Here we go, here we go. General shape we want to cut out. Cut it like that. Put a small piece of tape right over this here. We'll do the same thing here. We're going to round this off. Round along here. Like our little T-Rex arms. I'll also put a piece of tape right along here. We've got to have two little holes right here in this part. I'm going to use this thin wire that I have here. Floral wire, any kind of thin wire would work well. So here he is, folks. I hope you enjoyed making a T-Rex puppet today.